Welcome to the show. This is The Force Always. My name is Diz, aka David Zammit. Let's get on with the show with the news, the views, reviews. Now, this show has been delayed a little due to the extreme hot weather in Melbourne, Australia. We've endured a couple 44, 43-degree days in a row. It's been extreme. I'm doing this particular show where I am right now in the middle of the night to get a bit of coolness because it is crazy. I'm wearing this jacket because, as you know, I'm the Force Always, but my goodness, it's insane. But let's get on with the show. Still got to have that coffee. Now, making news, it's probably about 24, 36 hours ago, we got news that Tom Cruise had been on the set of Starfighter and actually took a camera and filmed and or directed that particular shot somewhere on a watery water area. It's that early in the morning. And it was a lightsaber duel of some sort on a water area. My question is, if the lightsaber duel was happening on water, would they be electrocuted? Because there's a lot of energy in those particular lightsabers. But, the physics of Star Wars, well, we've got to just wait and see for that one. But I am pretty excited about that. Tom Cruise that got to be on the set and filmed and or directed that shot. I'm unsure if the direction was taken from Sean Levy, the extra director, or he just said, let me just take control. But he does definitely have merit to do so, as he has been in some high voltage action films before. One of the latest was Tom Cruise's Top Gun Maverick. Insanely good action. And also, to more news, on that set, only about a week beforehand, apparently, Steven Spielberg went to visit the set. He seems to do this on a regular basis. He did this way back in the prequel days, when, before The Phantom Menace came out. It was sort of pretty exciting. You can see that in the footage of the extra scenes in The Phantom Menace. If you've ever got a copy of the DVD, Blu-ray, or if it's online, I'm unsure. But, yeah, so Steven Spielberg has also visited the set. Who else has, I'm unsure, but that's making news for Starfighter. So the no news that is good news, well, that's good news. It's not no news, it's actually news that's making for Starfighter, Star Wars. Anyway, so to more news, there is another great, oh my goodness, great fan film. A great fan film that is online. I was going to do a mention of this, obviously. I would have made this show about 12, 15 hours ago, but it's been so hot here. But it's called A Snowtrooper's POV on the Battle of Hoth. I think that's what you'd word it as. It's on Star Wars Story Untold, I think, on the YouTube channel. Absolutely check it out. This, by only a smidgen, is not as good as Beggar's Canyon, but let me tell you, the story is 100% there. The visuals, I would say, is a 9.8. It's that good. You can just sort of tell in the up-close shots that it is a bit CGI, but even still, the story really takes you on the journey. It's actually set in between on the actual movie Empire Strikes Back, where they, at the start of the particular show, which is episode 5, when they're sort of going on a snow planet, Hoth, and they're, really going for, the rebels and the Empire sort of battling each other with the big sort of AT-AT or AT-ATs, whatever you like. And it was just sort of an inside area, almost like a Rogue One sort of feel. I tell you, I would love to give this a 10, but I'm going to say a 9.8 as a general, because it was just only a little bit in the point where the facial part, when they're talking to each other, you'll see in the particular fan film, it was just a little bit sort of obvious, a little bit. But I'm telling you, it's remarkable. Remarkable. Check it out. Unbelievable. Snowtroopers POV, whatever you say that as, I'm unsure, on the Battle of Hoth. And I think that's how you'd word it. Look that up. It's amazing. Anyway, so that's pretty much the news and sort of a review in there, but that's the news that's happening at the moment. Let's get into the views. Views, my story idea where I tell you what I think I'd like to see in Star Wars, but I do accept the story for what it is. From start to finish. I enjoy the journey of Star Wars, but let's get into this. It's sort of a bit of an opinion here plus a little bit of a story. I think the relentless people's version of what Star Wars, what should have been, what we've got, and what should be and what we haven't got is just outweighing the opinion in getting Star Wars out there more often. I just think it's, look, I understand everyone has their own opinion of what Star Wars is, but we really do need to let go. Just as Obi-Wan said to Luke Skywalker in A New Hope, let go, Luke. And use the Force. Just let it come to you as it is. I mean, we all have our opinions, but it's just, it's relentless. And I think public opinion does influence people at Lucasfilm and or Disney, and it's sort of rightly so. But, you know, if you are a creator and you are just certain about your vision, like George Lucas, no matter what anyone says to you, no matter the odds, you get it done. And that's what George Lucas did. To me, that is the overwhelming understanding for me, rather than listening to people's opinion, where they in order to stop you. But there is a point where you do need to take it in. And I think, you know, for example, George Lucas, he really did need to listen to more people saying to him no in the prequels, rather than him being an absolute 100%, which is understandable. It's his thing. But, you know, you've just got to listen, but at the same, meaning hear the person, filter what is going on, and put it out there. But anyway, let's get into my story idea. Story idea is, what is more effective with fan films? Should it be an original or should it be connected to what we know? At the moment, in my opinion, just like the amazing fan film that I've just seen, Snowtroopers POV on Battle of Hoth, I think it should be connected closely to what we know, because until it gets to a feature film length, something that we know, people would get a little bit not excited as yet. But when we get to that level, the storytelling can be super original and be really accepted. It could work. I'm not saying it couldn't work, having a pure original AI fan film out there, but at the moment, my idea is I would create something that is connected to what we know in the canon and what these guys just did with the Snowtrooper. And it was, yeah, so that's what I would think. That's my story idea as a fan film, and just keep bringing them on. So that's my views for this time around. Let's get into reviews. Reviews is something that I have in this room, and before I rock that, I've got to rock this. And let's get into, now speaking of Snowtroopers, but in a Stormtrooper way, one of my other I've got mugs here. I've got like a Clone Trooper, but the another mug I've got is the classic Stormtrooper mug. Now, to be honest, the Clone Trooper mug that I've shown you before sort of comes off like it's a, it's just here. Look, hold on. The Clone Trooper mug comes off like this futuristic mug. This one is obviously, you can see it's more of a head. Personally, I've reviewed this before, and I love this. And I do love this too. But because it looks more like a head, obviously being the Stormtrooper, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. I don't hold it as significant as this because this looks like a futuristic mug. I sort of like both type of clone troopers, or clone and stormtroopers. Clone, storm. I like them both, but I just think this has a bit more sort of, futuristic looking mug sort of thing. This looks like just a head that is a mug. Nothing wrong with that, but I just want to think. So 7 out of 10. This is the classic Stormtrooper way back in the day. I've had this for many decades. I don't think this is something that I'd resell for the sake of it. I don't think it would be that much of a collectible. If so, I still wouldn't want to depart from it. And, a lot of things in this room is sort of like that. So, I'm going to get myself rocking here because it's super, super early in the morning. I can't tell you how early, but it's early. So let's get now into interviews. Interviews is usually the comments that I get on the last particular video of my YouTube channel. Please send in your comments to the last particular video that I have on YouTube, and then I'll either read the comments or questions. Now, I'm not Mr. Trivia. I don't know everything, but I do know a bit out there. Anyway, please send them in. And while I'm saying this, please subscribe to the channel. The Force Always. I'm here 3 or 4 times a week, more like 3 at the moment. Being so hot, I've had to delay this show. It's been unbelievable. Melbourne is not used to being hot. And I love the hot, but this was insanely hot yesterday. Insane. Anyway, let's get into the questions on the last particular thing. So we've got Michael from Werribee South, one of our favourites here. He's got a question, or a comment. Let's have a look. It's a question. Leadership and longevity. Clarifications on Kennedy's role at Lucasfilm. Retirement rumours and who might succeed her apart from Filoni. Well, that news is sort of a bit of an old bit of news there. We know that Filoni is highly rumoured to be in partnership with, I think, a lady named Lin Gwen. I think that's her name, Lin Wen. And they're going to be possibly partners in the president of Lucasfilm. We don't know. Rumours is just always flying around. I don't think Kathleen Kennedy will retire. I think it's just in her blood. She'll be a part of Disney somewhere. Whether it actually happens, we don't know. It's only rumour. It's only speculation at the moment. It's going to happen in the coming week or weeks. But, I personally think, Kennedy is still a great president. I just think the only part that I'll say that I've been a little bit dicey with is her bringing in a director of a film or writer and then sort of saying this is it and it's been retreated. Now that type of thing is really, when you are in the creative process, it happens a lot. And I just think when you're in the public forum like that, it just doesn't look good on yourself. I think lots of her, films are good. Contrary to popular belief, I don't just eat it up. I just enjoy what it is there. I really enjoy Rogue One. I really enjoyed Force Awakens. I enjoyed the originality of The Last Jedi. But again, with all these films, they have their ups and downs. Anyway, so that's the answer to the question. Really, who will succeed her apart from Filoni? Well, I think there's going to be a partnership with Filoni and this. I think it's Lin Wen. Her name is Lin Wen. I don't know too much about it, but that's what I've been told. Anyway, so the next question, again from Michael from Werribee South, is development and strategy. Why has Star Wars development faced more scrutiny than other franchises? What lessons were learned from past projects, e.g. Solo sequel trilogy? Well, in my opinion, which this is more an opinionated question for the answer, I think putting yourself out there in the putting the projects out there as a in the creative process without being 100% with it, the public sort of gets to understand the creative process, and it just gets in the way of you really making a clear decision. I think that's where Kennedy has sort of failed, is really putting it out there too early. Trying to have people get excited that there's something coming. Maybe that was her reason, and I still love. I know I'm not a look. The best president would be yourself, okay? But I do enjoy Kathleen Kennedy. I think she's great. Like her or hate her, it's up to you. But I think the development and strategy for the future is that when you have 100% everything in lockdown, then release it to the public. Because when people get into, why, when, how, change, and stuff like that, people get fixated. I'll give you an example. The standalone films that we've had, with Solo and Rogue One, they were called in the beginning something. They were called. It was a word. It was some sort of word. It was anthology, Star Wars anthology. People got used to the word anthology. It was super techie and really creatively techie and was really good. And then she changed her mind and said, let's call it a Star Wars story. Which sort of makes sense. It gives a more descriptive term of saying it's a Star Wars story. But the anthology sounds more cooler. But people at a period of time, it doesn't happen now, it's sort of drifted out of popularity, but the Star Wars anthology really was taking over. Well, this is what we're going to call it instead of a Star Wars story. When you're putting your creative process out there, your vulnerability, people will have their own opinions. I think just, again, excuse me, development strategy is don't put yourself out there. This is to the president. Sorry about that. It's so early in the morning here, my goodness. Is just don't put yourself out there too early and you will be fine. And when you have everything that is 100%, put it out there. Simple. The next question and or comment from Michael from Werribee South, which is a part of Melbourne, Australia. Future of the saga. Will the Skywalker saga continue beyond the 9 films? What's the long-term plan for connecting movies and Disney Plus shows? I don't know. I'm not the person that actually makes those decisions. From what I understand, I think from 1 to 9, there was a deliberate marketing strategy that it was called the Skywalker saga. I think they're going to keep that contained and leave it like that. But if they make episode 10 onwards, which I'm wishing that Starfighter could be episode 10, just as a prediction, just as a wish, if it doesn't happen, I understand. But I think they'll really somehow have to market it as a different saga. But if they don't, people will still think it's a part of the Skywalker saga. So it's what they're going to actually do, I don't know. But I know that they're limiting the Star Wars TV shows and more concentrating on the cinematic releases, which is great. It's what Star Wars is. It's a space opera that should be deservingly seen on a massive screen. That's the answer to that question. The next question is, are we getting more Visions or High Republic? Questions arise about expanding non-traditional genres and eras, like anime-inspired tales of the High Republic. Again, I don't know. I think they will also limit on that type of stuff, concentrating more on the cinematic release. But because of the transition of president to possibly presidents of Lucasfilm Star Wars, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. The speculation at the moment is if Filoni takes over, we're going to get an Ahsoka movie. That's speculation. Whether you like Ahsoka or not, that's speculation. I don't know if we're going to get more Visions or High Republic. Personally, I think the Vision thing is fine where it is. I think the High Republic is an area of Star Wars that is a bit too sci-fi. I'd like to sort of see it, but in not movie releases. I think it would just drown Star Wars completely in its money-making adventures. I'm not that interested. If there's anything in the past I'm interested in is Darth Plagueis, the era of Darth Plagueis. It's pretty much the only thing I love. But if they do release more Visions or High Republic, I'll be up for it. I'm on the journey with Lucasfilm and Disney of where it's going and whoever owns it in the future. I am on that journey. There's only one thing that will break me. One thing. If they say we're going to reset Star Wars, recon Star Wars, and start all over again, after the amount of time invested in this, after knowing that after the original trilogy, they were going to go backwards rather than forwards. So I said, you know what, if they're going to go backwards and they'll go forwards, which was a promise at the time in 97, 98, that's 1997, 98, I said, I'll stick with it. I just didn't like going in the idea of the past. I like things be the new, just always, just having fun with the new rather than the old. Don't get me wrong, lots of great stories in the old, like the story of how Darth Vader became Darth Vader. But I just wish that they just keep going forward, and that's what I think. With Visions and High Republic, I don't know if they're going to release more stuff. To more questions by Michael from Werribee South is, will we get more standalone stories? Kennedy has emphasized moving beyond an interconnected Skywalker saga model, allowing new directors to tell unique stories and don't have to tie into everything else. Yeah, well, that's a great idea. As Kathleen Kennedy is possibly transitioning out, we don't know what we're going to get with the new 2 or new 1. We don't know. But I think the Skywalker saga, it will be contained. They'll just have to market the next one, which is episode 10, in some sort of way that it doesn't connect to that, which would be interesting because the commercial world of people knowing what Star Wars is, rather than the hardcore Star Wars fans, will be a little bit lost in what's going on. It would have to be heavily marketed in understanding. That's what I think. Anyway, so the next question, this is the final question for Michael from Werribee South. Why not more classic space opera? Fans question if the franchise is moving away from epic, long-form space opera narratives that define Star Wars. Well, yes, in the TV shows, it's probably less space opera. Space opera is technically in space and being epic, is what Star Wars is and always is meant to be. It still has an epic sort of feel, but yes, it's a bit more contained. And look, I think, if you're going to put Star Wars on the big screen, it's always going to be epic. If you put Star Wars on the TV show, it's going to be a bit more contained. It's just sort of a way things are to be. I think the budget for making things epic needs to be on a cinema. Things to be that are epic on the TV screen as a TV series is probably, way out of budget, out of control, not really managed well. But I don't know. Star Wars will always be a space opera. It's not sci-fi. It's a space opera. It's a space adventure. Anyway, now the last question is actually a note for me to remember from the last show, because I did say I was going to give you my opinion on my thoughts of the transition of the leadership of Kennedy to possibly Filoni and or Lin Wen. I think that's her name. I'm just getting used to her as a new person, character, identity. My opinion is that I think Kennedy has done a good job. I think the fans have just taken on a way over out of control opinion of certain bad things and just really heavily emphasized on that. I do understand their dislike about Kennedy or things that have been made within Star Wars, but I think Kennedy is still, she is an absolute icon. I think she is good. She's really been pushed out the door by opinion, but she's stood her ground, which is sort of good, but it's really caused the fandom to be, relentlessly and ongoingly just at her throat. She may not be the best Star Wars staff member to have, bring the fans united. There's a reason for that for her to go, I think. Unfortunately, even though she's done, a good job, she's done a great job in her life. E.T., Indiana Jones, things like that. My opinion on this may cause a rift with some people out there, but that's just my opinion. But going to Filoni and Lin Wen, that's what I think her name is, and that's what we're possibly going to see. I think having two people at the top, if they are able to get along, one creative, one sort of business-minded person coming together, I think that is a really good idea. I think it could work. I believe in that. I think it's the next best thing. I mean, the only other person that everyone keeps talking about could be president is Favreau. I think he would be great as well. But let's look at Filoni and Lin Wen. And I think that's a great idea, sort of balancing the two worlds, because creatives and the business world can really clash. If they can somehow, compromise and work together, they've got to be able to work together, then it's going to work. That's my opinion. Anyway, that is the show for this time around. Until next time, my friends, keep rocking.